This time on ChinnyVision, doing up an old Spectrum. This is my current ZX Spectrum, my 48K Spectrum rather. As you can see, it's in rather splendid condition because it's been fully restored by the guy I bought it from. It's in absolutely wonderful condition. It's an issue 4S, a Samsung model, and doesn't have a new membrane because the Samsung ones apparently last forever. I've had no issues of anything with it at all. It's got a new faceplate though, and it's had new caps inside, a composite mod, and various things done to it. It's in pretty good nick, and you can see on the bottom there, it should say something about made by the Republic of Korea by Samsung, somewhere down there. It's a nice unit, and it was made by done by Zig.net. It's 116 of the ones that he did. So that's my kind of daily, not my daily drive, it's the one I keep actually very nice and show to people and go, look, this is my 48K Spectrum. And then I actually use a Plus 2 day to day because Plus 2's got 128K and better video output, and it's the one I capture from for the channel. So, 2 weeks ago, I was wandering around in Bude and went up to Cash Storm at the top of the town, and he's always got a few interesting retro bits in there, just tucked away. Sometimes you have to ask him, and that's where I got the new Competition Pro for the channel a couple of months back, and he had a couple of Spectrums in there, and they weren't in particularly good condition, because here's one of them. Obviously, it's battered, and he wanted 40 quid for it, but he did throw in a zip stick with it as well, which was useful. And it had its power supply, which obviously I'm not insane because I'm not going to use it. It's battered, but I was looking at the two of them and thought, well, there's a project here for the channel because if you come across a Spectrum, it's going to look like this. And indeed, I got it home and plugged in the UHF. And yeah, the keyboard membrane is shot to bits, but it does work. The machine works. Of course, I used a Futurist 8-bit ZX Spectrum power supply here with a label on it, handily labelled by me badly because it's coming off. But yeah, if you're getting a Spectrum, go to the Futurist 8-bit and get a new 9-volt centre negative supply because, well, shall we talk about ZX Spectrum power supplies before we go any further? I think we probably should because I've actually got one here for a change. So here's a Speccy power supply, one of the original ones, well, one of the post-revision ones because the first lot failed, didn't they? All had to be returned. And that could be a danger potentially if you've got a unit that no one ever got around to returning the power supply for. It's a linear power supply, big brick, heavy thing, 9-volt DC. Obviously, if you measure it with no load on it, it will be much higher. But let's look at the weak point because it's pretty obvious. This is where they usually break around there and they just short out and fail. And I've seen so many of these because that is just rubbish. I mean, it was rubbish at the time, let alone with 35-year-old rubber. That's going to be rubbish. And you're completely reliant on this thing because it does put out a higher voltage because it's linear. You're completely reliant on the voltage regulator on the board doing its job well. So what I want to do is turn this Spectrum into something viable. It's pretty manky, scratched, as you can see, and got a little bit of Vaseline on it as well. Don't ask, that was something for Twitter. But this is pretty much how I bought it. So what we're going to look at is sprucing this up, getting this rubbish off the bottom, sorting out this messy faceplate, cleaning up on the inside, and the edge connector as well, so that's horribly messy, and generally making it look good. And I'll also show you what caps you need to buy, but we're not going to install new caps. Today I'll do a composite mold. I think that's probably a separate video to keep the length down. Also how much time I got this afternoon to do this. And before we begin, I want to say one thing about this project. This is not a way to give you a collector's edition perfect ZX Spectrum that looks like the kind of thing you want to put on your shelf and have looking immaculate. You're going to have to buy one that is pretty good already. This is a demonstration of what you can do to a Manky Spectrum that you buy in a backstreet shop in Bude or at a car boot sale or what have you. It is not a way to give you a collector's edition. So just please tune out now if you're expecting it to look like my Zig.net Spectrum It's just going to look like a tidier version of the Spectrum I got with a new faceplate with a membrane that actually works. So the first thing to do when you're doing one of these projects is get the Spectrum out of the way and show you actually what I've bought. I went on the Sell My Retro website and bought a new faceplate from ZX Renew. He actually sent me a 48K plus membrane to begin with. I went, that's not a faceplate, so I had to send it back. And he sent this. Slightly unfortunate because they sent it in a cardboard box. It wasn't backed up enough, or given enough strength rather, and it kind of arrived a bit like that, which has resulted in something looking a bit like that. I'm hoping that will come out when I come to put it on the Spectrum. But faceplate is just aesthetic. What you're going to need is a keyboard membrane. That was, by the way, £15.88 plus postage. Another £7.50 from RWAP Software got me this, which is a new membrane for the Spectrum. Get it up there for you to see. Much you can see something that's completely transparent on a video. And then I went on eBay and bought a set of replacement capacitors for $2.99, which is here. And that's also the composite mod as well, so you can see all the bits there. So that's a total of all 21. You're looking at £32 to do all this. This comes with instructions as well, but as I say, we're not doing capacitors today. I'm not doing those today. It's just I got those in, so I had the entire lot in one go. So first thing I've got to do is look at this Spectrum itself and see, get it open and just start getting it all done. And by the way, the purchase of this Spectrum and all the bits for it were funded by ChinnyVision's very kind Patreon supporters who help prop up the channel, and in return they get previews of videos and various other bits and pieces. £1 a month, or $1 a month rather, gets you, and that's far less than £1. Link below. If you do help the channel out, I can do more things like this because there's no other revenue for ChinnyVision at the moment than Patreon. No adverts, no calendars this year, nothing. So it's incredibly important for the people who would like to help. There's going to be a few edits here because this is slightly difficult when you're doing these kinds of videos. You could do that American bloke who likes all the guns and just do a very kind of ill-matching voiceover afterwards going, first I did this, then I did this, and then I did this, and then put some cheesy music on it. I can't be doing with all that, and I suspect you can't either. So I'm just going to do a few edits. I've got my screwdriver. Let's open her up and see what we've got. Any more screws in this? Oh, there's a screw at the back. Oh, warranty sticker. Do not remove. Valid until the 18th of the 2nd, 89. When I bought this, I did peek inside because there were two Spectrums there, and I saw the keyboard membrane leads were in much better condition than the other one. And this one's clearly had some warranty work done, which I thought would be a good sign because it means someone's been in there in 89, which is very much towards the end of the Spectrum's life. So this may not have had much use after that, or 88 rather. But it means it was working potentially until, February 89, so it broke in February 88. But we're going to validate the warranty now from the... warranty sticker from who? It's probably a power supply problem. At least a bit of sponge. Let's get her open and see what horrors lie within. By the way, I'm not a Spectrum restoration expert. I just want to say that because I know there's certain people on YouTube who do a lot more of this and Twitter and stuff who get very uptight about anybody encroaching on their territory or indeed buying Spectrums that aren't bought from them. And to them I say, get a life. Really? It's a bleeding Spectrum. If I break this, I break it. Tough. Right, so this cost me £40, by the way, if I didn't say that, but that was with a zip stick. Now, usually I'd take more care taking the membrane out, but frankly, at this stage, this doesn't really matter. Behold, a Spectrum. Suddenly we can find, it's a 3B. I've not been inside this. It's an issue 3B. let's get the camera down inside, have a poke around before we do anything. Right, I'm at a funny angle as usual, but let's have a look and see what we've got going on in here. And I'll show you via the medium of a Sharpie pen, as a beloved by Steve Pickford. So your voltage comes in there. That's your voltage regulator there, which I would replace. That doesn't come in the kit, but I've got a load of those in my cupboard. No harm in replacing one of those. Very easy to do. This isn't the best pointing implement at all, is it? Let's use the screwdriver. Very easy to replace a voltage regulator. That's all the voltage side down there. You've got your speaker there. Your ULA is there. That's socketed. Some people put heat sinks on those, and I might do that when I come to do that. But as I'm not recapping any of this today, it's all through holes, so it's fairly easy to work on one of these boards, but I don't want to do any of that today. Your Z80 should be there. I can't see from this angle. It looks like a Z80. That's socketed as well. And your display circuitry over there. And if you're doing the modulator mods to turn that into composite, again, all your bits are over there. And you need to break into that can and do stuff. You've got this great big heatsink over here, which carries heat away from that voltage regulator. That's why your Spectrum gets warm on top. And you'll notice on here, look, you would expect the membrane, this all to unscrew and then take the membrane out from there. Wouldn't you? Surely that would be the way you do it. No. The membrane is stuck under this panel. This panel has to be sacrificed or got off cleanly in order for you to put the membrane in. Now, I'm going to show you, I'm going to attempt to show you how to recover your front metallic bit. Apparently this is the way you do it. So I'm going to go and get something in a minute to show you that. But I wouldn't, if you're buying a new faceplate like I have, you can just rip this thing off and just put the membrane in. I'm going to quickly show you how to remove one of these. Right, off to Mrs. Chinny's dressing table. And I don't tell her I'm doing this. So, here we are with a hairdryer. And what you do, get your hairdryer, I'm not very good at these things, get it onto a medium or actually a low heat. Get it on. I'm not very good with these things, but many people never have to use them. Alright, let's just gently heat the underneath of there. A bit more here. I'm actually taking it up to full. What I'm looking to do is melt the glue underneath there. Just hair dry my Spectrum. I have turned the heat up a little bit. You don't want it to settle on any kind of bit for too long because you don't want to damage the plastic or the rubber. Do not use a hot air gun for this. Do not use a hot air gun for this. It will get too hot. That's beginning to go now. If you've ever had to take a dent out of a plastic bit of a car with the hairdryer, you'll know what you're doing with this. You don't want it to go too far. That's nicely warm now. So I've been using this on maximum heat because it seems to work better. But if it doesn't come off, do not bend it. Just do it on the right. Just work at the bit you need to work at. Get it nice and hot. Don't do anything excessive. Don't put it in the oven. Don't do anything silly. Just a hairdryer. You can take a finger. You can test the heat. Because you're not going to get a new rubber mat. Unless these people do new... Yeah, stop it. Right. Do new rubber mats. Oh, it's hot, 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 but it's coming. It's coming. There we go. Yay. Hope you saw that. See, and look, and that has come off beautifully. And there's the original membrane. That's how it all works. Checks the camera's rolling because suddenly I think I'm convinced it isn't. That's how it all works. The membrane sits there. The rubber keys. Oh my goodness. Oh, you. Right, so if you were so minded, you could clean off all that stuff there, on there. clean all this up and then stick it all back on. But I've got 35 dead people's skin on me. And then just use something on there as well you can do this to. Don't super glue. Sometimes people used to super glue these things down. And then lo and behold, you ain't going to get it off again. It's got to be stuck to the plastic with something that will come off again, but will be sturdy enough to last for a while. And the original strips that Sinclair used, probably made by 3M or someone, worked absolutely fine. And that is the membrane, which is now quite warm, but that doesn't matter. Enjoy this on your high-res TV. Right, I'm going to go and wash that and that. And I'm going to take the circuit board out of here as well and just wash the case and get these bits off, which is presumably acetone job. And I'll be back to you shortly. Right, I wasn't going to pull this bit, and apologies for the rubbish audio because you're on camera audio as opposed to proper mic, which is somewhere over there. I'm washing this in no more than mild green fairy liquid. I'm just squirting that on there, and I'm going to fill this sink up with water. The membrane itself is pretty manky. As you can see, all the bits floating around have come off it already. I'm not worrying about the warranty sticker or anything like that. I'm just going to wash this and give it a brush with this little brush here, gently scrubbing it, if you can see down there. This isn't ideal shooting conditions, but I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to clean off the other things. It's kind of fairly common sense. Don't use anything abrasive. Don't use anything you wouldn't put on your hands, like a good quality dishwashing soap. Do not put it through the dishwasher. This could be done in no time at all, and I will have got all the little bits of dead skin out from in where this Spectrum is. So I'm just going to continue doing this now and put the camera out of the way because it's a bit weird having it all over here. Okay, so while that's drying, what you're going to need is some isopropyl alcohol and a couple of cotton buds as well. And what we're going to do is clean that edge connector in there that you can probably just about see in there. We're just going to wipe that down there and get all the crud off of it. So when we plug in our SD card adapter, everything's going to be lovely. I'm going to put some isopropyl on my cotton bud there. Lift that up if you can see that. If you can see that there, and just start wiping. And yeah, we've got crud off there. Or in fact, you can just go like that if you want to. Spray it on there. And then just, while observing anti-static precautions, I promise you I'm grounded, honestly. And just wipe that there as well. You can try something a little bit more abrasive because this looks well used here. I'm going to just put it over here and give it a little bit of a harder scrub. You could also use contact cleaner. It'd be far more aggressive on here, but it takes a while to dry and it stinks the house out. And Mrs. Chinny's home in a couple of hours and I've already got to get her hairdryer back in a position. But I mean, look how dirty that is there. We'll move over to a new cotton bud there. That's 30 years of never still stuff coming off there. Sometimes you think you've cleaned these things, you plug something in, it still doesn't work. You can see the tarnishing on that bolt there. So well used, I think, is the expression. That's filthy still. That's going to probably even another cut and bud after that. I'm going to continue with this, and my bits are all drying on the side. Right, that's been quite a lot of scrubbing, and quite a few of these cotton buds that you can see are absolutely filthy, and a lot of kitchen roll as well. It's still not as clean as it could be. I probably would have been better off using contact cleaner. I just didn't want to use it. One thing I wanted to show you underneath here was this solder mask, this Sinclair quality solder mask. Oh, crinkly, oh. Right, hokey cokey, pig in a pokey. We're going to put some of this down on the table because my parts are dry, and we're going to see why I'm doing this. Because what we're going to need is acetone. Horrible, horrible stuff. Make sure you get windows and doors open when you're using it. And I've got a rubber glove on, but it's a left-handed rubber glove. But you don't want this stuff in your hands, so I'm just going to have you guys laugh at me for wearing the wrong glove on the wrong hand. But it's not going to be a problem because I'm not going to die from acetone. We put a little bit of acetone on our bit of kitchen paper. Just rub it on there to remove the glue, and it should come off fairly easily because we want to get good contact on there when we glue the new unit on. That's come off quite well there. Darker outside. It's November great. I think I've Rob down in Australia, lucky so-and-so, it's summer for him, although it's going to be at 60 degrees. So, can't have it all. You can have the sun, but you're going to have the heat as well. Be careful with the stuff because you don't want to get it on the markings on the spectrum because it will take it off. It also evaporates very quickly, so that's why it stopped working there. Just going to put a little bit more. And always put the lid back on as well. And don't smoke when you're doing this, if you do smoke, because you will die. And ChinnyVision does not endorse people A, smoking or B, setting fire to themselves. All instructions in this are purely for entertainment's sake. Sorry. Terrible cold. Also, there's stuff making me cough. You can see what I'm doing. I'm going to do this without the camera on because, you can see what that American guy always dubs over afterwards with a slightly sarcastic voiceover now, can't you? Okay, right. I've spent quite a lot of time getting the glue off this spectrum, and most of it has come off, but the problem with acetone is it spreads the glue around a bit, so you can see that I rubbed my fingernail over there. You can still see there's bits of kind of residue. In fact, the camera shows up there really well. There's still residue on there. I don't have time today to do another hour of scrubbing this, and indeed for this particular spectrum it's probably not worth it because it's never going to be great, and there are things like scratches on the back that are never going to come off, and inside as well, again, it needs more acetone just to get the remainder of this glue off. It just feels a little bit tacky, but the worst of it is off, so it's not too bad. With more time I could do this job far better. This is how the top came out. Again, a little bit of glue spread around in there. You could paint those letters up there if you wanted to, but it's not critical. Again, those bits don't matter because as long as they're fairly clean, you can get the new membrane in. Speaking of which, new membrane. So here's the new membrane. It's fairly rigid, whereas the old membrane is a little bit more floppy, and this is kind of smooth and looks very nice. Right, let's get this in. So what you do is, first of all, make sure you've got this the right way up. So if you compare that to the motherboard, their motherboard on a Spectrum, the main board, it goes that way. You can see that because look, there you go, the connectors are there. Like that. They don't go like that. They go like that. So what you then do, you pop that in there and just press it down so it now does that. There's a little tear up there, nothing to worry about, some usage down the years, I suspect. So that then goes on top like yay. I'll bring this over here to make sure I've lined up all the little holes, because there are little holes. We'll just bring the camera in close to show you. You might be able to see there, just there's little plastic clips that come through there, and there, and there, there, and that needs to be all the way through. So it's nice and pressed down. And apologies if the lighting has changed. It's now got dark outside because I've been so long messing around with that glue residue, but I really don't think it's worth. It's about proving the point, not getting a perfect restoration. So just check this before taking the strips off. Everything fits. I just hoping this fits okay there. Just a little bit concerned about that bend this thing acquired in the post, but I don't know what I can just bend it back a little bit. It's very difficult because do you make it worse or do you just leave it? Right, let's take this is the one shot deal. So my camera is rolling. And these are like quality 3M strips on here. Some people go, oh, you shouldn't change the front of the Spectrum, you should keep it authentic. Really, given the low quality of the front decal keyboard things anyway, I'm not particularly, I'm trying to get these, I'm stuck to a Spectrum. Right, so now if you're doing this, you should probably be doing this not from an angle. I'm going to do it from here. I'm going to stand up. So if I go off microphone, I've only got one shot at this. It's blowing in. As I say, it's not perfect. This could be done better. But this is going to be a daily driver, not a show Spectrum like the other one. So you can spend as much time as you like doing something like this. So we gently, making sure I'm on camera, gently just take that in around there and press her down like so. And I have got a little bit of because that bend, I have got a little bit of a protruding bit there, which I'll work on. If you can see that there, this doesn't quite, you can see that it doesn't quite sit tight there, because I think because that bend, I'm not too bothered. I mean, that's much better. I can also, again, just work on that little bit of glue there, but as a general Spectrum to use, I'm not going to concern myself too much. Right, time to get the main board back in. So I'm off mic there. Trying to get the board back in and reassemble, but she's looking good. I mean, yeah, not too bad at all, really, there. So we get our base unit here, and again, I'm looking at this thinking, I'm not going to do any more with that. The bottom's so scratched anyway on this, that me worrying about little blobs of glue there, I'm not going to worry. I can always give it a scrub when it's back in its case, so not too worried. You're not going to see the bottom. And again, in here, does that have to be, as long as it's clean, doesn't actually matter, does it really? People will be screaming and downvoting now, as they do. But I mean, it's different, isn't it? A, are you putting this on display, in which case you wouldn't have bought this Spectrum anyway, because it's scratched and a bit battered. And B, you know, all we want it is looking fairly nice and working and having a working membrane and not looking like a complete disaster. If you want stuff to put on a shelf and make it look beautiful, then that hasn't worked. Why hasn't that worked? Because I haven't lined it up properly, because I'm an idiot. Because I'm trying to do things at an angle whilst talking to people on the internet. Or as Mrs. Chinny calls you, your weird friends on the internet. I think she means Mr. PSB. There we go. Don't over tighten, just finger tightness. Finger tightness, watchword. So my Speccy's back in. Amazing to think that's all held in with one screw, isn't it? Right, now time to plug the membrane in, the moment of truth. So our metallic side is there. As you can see, I'm going to get you in nice and close. The thing about the original Spectrums was these were quite fragile, but hopefully, well, the lighting's not too good. I'm not changing the lighting this close to the end of the video. Again, if you're doing this yourself, don't make a video on it, and don't, so you're at a stupid angle so you can't actually see what you're doing, because you're showing some people on the internet without actually being able to see yourself. I think that's one side in. This side I should be able to get in slightly better. I'm going to be in here again at some point anyway, because obviously, clearly, I want to do the... All right, I'm just going to bring... That's not in. because I'm stupid and trying to do it at an angle. Right, just bear with me a second. I've spotted my problem, it won't go in. There's still a tiny bit of the original membrane in there. So I'm going to get some tweezers and do that properly now. Right, that was a gotcha I haven't had before. A tiny piece of the previous membrane still left in the connector. So that is now all done up. And I'll pop the top back on. There we go, and do them up. And once the screws are done, that's a working ZX Spectrum. Not too happy about that sticking on that side, but might be something to do with that bend. I might have just moved it over a little bit too far. Although I think my other one does it as well, a little bit. Yeah, this one does as well. It's got a little bit of an edge. Let's find that side, a little bit of an edge. That side. So, I mean, that's a really nice one that's in good condition. It's got a couple of scratches on the bottom, but nothing major. A couple of, again, glue marks on there, but nothing major. I will stick some sticky pads on the bottom of this one, so it sits properly, and I guess far more worn on the bottom here as well, but you're gonna, and you can also see that glue residues causing things to stick to it. Not great, could have done that better, but really, it's a daily driver. It looks like that from that side. How many times do you turn your Spectrum upside down to look at it unless you're a bit weird? So I'm going to pop the screws back in, but yeah, that's a very quick and messy, I suppose, way to take a Spectrum you find in the shops or on eBay cheaply and just do it up. I could do all the caps up, as I've got all the bits here to do it with, and that'll be a job for another day in the composite mod, but this has taken me far too long with the glue, so I'm definitely not doing that today. But it's not come out too bad, really. Have that on your shelf to use that just as a general daily driver, and then you have your one for best that you show off to your mates and what have you.